back to today's Photo Minute. My name is Brian Osborne from the Photo Classroom. In today's segment, I wanted to talk a little bit more about composition. We did a segment very early on, a couple of months ago, on one of the primary parts of composition, and that is just making sure you have a clear subject matter. But I've had the chance in the last couple of weeks to be working with some of our students in the fields of the sunflower outings that we've been sponsoring, as well as we do have a Composition 1 class coming up on July 14th, this coming Tuesday night virtually. And it just reminded me that this is always an area that we can be expanding our skills and getting better at. And so I wanted to talk today about what I think is probably the second most important thing in composition, and that is where we place our subject matter. We talked the first time about always having a primary subject matter, always having one main subject in the frame. But now I want to talk about where we place that subject in the frame, because that's almost as important as having a good main focal point or main subject as well. Here's the reality, and that's that the tendency of almost all people that take pictures of any type is to place the subject matter in the center of the frame. It's almost human nature just to put it right there in the dead center. But the reality is that tends to create less than dynamic or less than interesting images. It's very hard to imagine that we can create images that are better than average if we simply place our subject matter in the same area that most photographers would under similar types of situations. And so today I just wanted to remind us of what we call the rule of thirds. The rule of thirds simply states that you would take two horizontal 1/3 lines and then two vertical 1/3 lines, and that you might try to place your main subject not in the center of the frame, but at one of those intersection points of those 1/3 lines. Maybe a simpler way to state it is simply this: anything that you and I can do to not do what the average person does, which is place the subject in the center, probably makes for a much better image. And so just exploring the whole idea of taking our main subject, once we know what that is, and placing that at maybe the closer to the corners of the frame in our compositions can make for much more dynamic images. A couple quick examples where you might apply this. If you're doing a headshot in a portrait orientation, you might make sure you place your subject's eyes at the top 1/3, where the tendency of many people is to place the subject's eyes in the center of the image as well. If I'm doing a landscape picture with a horizon in the picture, I might not place the horizon line in the center, but I might move it down to the bottom 1/3 so that I can showcase the beautiful sky, the clouds in the sky, etc. Or if I'm taking a picture of a flower or a bug or a wildlife of any type, I might just try to not place the head of that subject matter or the center point of that subject matter in the center, but to move it outside of that frame, outside of the center portion, and to move it to one of those 1/3 intersection points. It's a fun thing to just be working on, especially in the field. We can always do it while we're cropping our images later, but I think it's so much more powerful when we can start to compose our images in the camera in a way that is going to be much more pleasing and much more interesting. And so my encouragement today is for you to get out and practice, find some great subject matters, and more importantly, find ways to move those subject matters out of the center and place them at different places within the viewfinder, and see if you don't like those compositions better. Once again, my name is Brian Osborne from today's Photo Minute, and thank you for joining me. Have fun and continue to get out inside and shoot.